Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Hamza and I'm so glad you're joining me today. We're about to delve into a truly captivating story, the story of the prophet Joseph. His incredible journey, detailed beautifully in Surah Yusuf in the Quran, takes us from the depths of a well all the way to the heights of power in ancient Egypt. It's a tale filled with jealousy, resilience, faith, and ultimately, triumph. Before we explore the 10 key lessons from Joseph's life, let's take a moment to understand the unique place his narrative holds across Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. While the Quran provides the most extensive account, Joseph, or Yusuf, is also recognized as a significant figure in the Torah and the Bible. We'll briefly touch upon the similarities and differences in how these faiths view him and his story. So grab a comfortable seat, perhaps a cup of tea, and let's embark on this insightful journey together. By the end of our time, I hope you'll find valuable takeaways that resonate with your own life. And if anything particularly strikes you, please do share your thoughts in the comment section below. Your insights are always welcome. Also, if you enjoy this exploration, please consider liking this video, subscribing for more content like this, and sharing it with others who might find it beneficial. Introduction to Joseph's story, a brief overview of his early life and the initial trials. Let's begin at the beginning with the early life of Joseph. He was the 11th of Jacob's 12 sons, born to Jacob's beloved wife Rachel in his old age. This special circumstance contributed to a deep affection Jacob held for Joseph, often showing him favor, such as the gift of a beautiful long-sleeved tunic, as mentioned in Genesis chapter 37, verse 3. Verse on screen, Genesis 37 verse 3. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made an ornate robe for him. This favoritism, while understandable from Jacob's perspective, unfortunately sowed seeds of resentment and jealousy among Joseph's older brothers. Adding fuel to the fire were Joseph's dreams, which he innocently shared with his family. These weren't just ordinary dreams. They seemed to foretell Joseph's future prominence, and even his brothers bowing down to him. In one dream, bundles of wheat belonging to his brothers bowed down to his bundle. In another, the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed down to him. Imagine being a young man, perhaps a bit naive, sharing these seemingly grand visions with brothers who already felt slighted. Their reaction, as we'll see, was far from supportive. These early experiences of being favored and then facing his brother's growing animosity set the stage for the dramatic trials that would shape Joseph's life. It's a reminder that even within families, complex dynamics and misunderstandings can lead to significant challenges. 2. The jealousy of his brothers, examining the motivations and consequences of their actions. The jealousy of Joseph's brothers wasn't just a fleeting emotion, it festered and grew into a dangerous hatred. Their motivations were multifaceted. Firstly, as we discussed, Jacob's obvious preference for Joseph created a deep sense of unfairness and resentment. They likely felt overlooked and less loved by their father. Secondly, Joseph's dreams, which suggested his future superiority, were deeply unsettling and insulting to his older brothers, who traditionally held positions of authority within the family structure. These dreams challenged their perceived status and power. It's understandable, though not excusable, how these visions could be interpreted as arrogance or a claim to dominance by young Joseph. The consequences of their jealousy were severe. Driven by this intense animosity, the brothers plotted against Joseph. Initially, some, like Reuben, intended to save him, suggesting he be thrown into a well rather than killed. However, their plan evolved, and ultimately, they succumbed to the temptation of financial gain, selling Joseph to a caravan of Ishmaelite traders heading towards Egypt. Verse on screen, Genesis 37:28. So when the Midianite merchants came by, his brothers pulled Joseph up out of the cistern and sold him for 20 shekels of silver to the Ishmaelites, who took him to Egypt. To conceal their heinous act, they stained Joseph's ornate tunic with goat's blood and presented it to their father, leading Jacob to believe that his beloved son had been killed by a wild animal. The consequences of their jealousy were far-reaching, causing immense grief to their father and dramatically altering the course of Joseph's life, setting him on a path of hardship and eventual greatness. This part of the story serves as a powerful reminder of the destructive nature of envy and the ripple effects of our actions on those around us. 3. Sold into slavery. Understanding Joseph's resilience in the face of betrayal. Imagine the shock and despair Joseph must have felt. From the comfort of his father's home, despite the tension with his brothers, he was suddenly thrust into the brutal reality of slavery in a foreign land. Betrayed by his own flesh and blood, stripped of his freedom and familiar surroundings, Joseph found himself a commodity to be bought and sold. Yet amidst this profound adversity, we begin to see the remarkable resilience of Joseph's character. The narrative in both the Torah and the Quran highlights that even in these dark times, Joseph maintained his integrity and a connection to his faith. He didn't succumb to bitterness or despair, at least not in a way that defined his actions. Instead, he seems to have focused on making the best of his situation, demonstrating diligence and trustworthiness. The Quran, in Surah Yusuf, particularly emphasizes Joseph's inner strength and reliance on God during this period. It suggests that this trial, though painful, was part of a larger divine plan. While the Torah provides a more straightforward account of his servitude, the underlying message of Joseph's ability to endure hardship with a degree of inner fortitude remains consistent. This stage of his life underscores the human capacity to find strength within, even when faced with unimaginable betrayal and loss of control. Joseph's example encourages us to consider how we might respond to similar, though perhaps less extreme experiences of being wronged or facing unexpected hardship. 4. Potiphar's house and false accusation. Exploring themes of temptation and integrity. Joseph's hard work and integrity did not go unnoticed. In Egypt, he was bought by Potiphar, a high-ranking official. Joseph's competence and the favor of God seemed to be with him, as he quickly rose in Potiphar's household, eventually being put in charge of his entire estate. This period offered Joseph a semblance of stability and perhaps a glimmer of hope. However, this relative peace was shattered by a significant test of his character. Potiphar's wife developed feelings for Joseph and repeatedly tried to seduce him. Joseph, mindful of his moral and religious obligations as well as his loyalty to his master, consistently refused her advances. The climax of this ordeal came when Potiphar's wife, feeling rejected and scorned, falsely accused Joseph of attempting to assault her. Potiphar, believing his wife's story, had Joseph thrown into prison. This turn of events highlights the ever-present danger of temptation and the heavy consequences of upholding one's integrity, even when faced with powerful opposition and potential personal cost. Joseph's unwavering commitment to doing what he believed was right, even when it led to imprisonment, is a powerful testament to the importance of moral principles. It prompts us to consider how we might act when faced with similar ethical dilemmas. Number 5. Imprisonment and interpretation of dreams. Highlighting Joseph's gift and his faith in hardship. Prison might seem like the absolute low point in Joseph's journey, yet it was within those very walls that his unique gift of interpreting dreams began to shine once more. Even in confinement, Joseph's character and his connection to his faith did not waver. He earned the trust of the prison warden and was put in charge of the other prisoners. It was during this time that 2 of Pharaoh's officials, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, were imprisoned. They both had perplexing dreams, and Joseph, with his God-given ability, accurately interpreted them. He foretold the cupbearer's restoration to his position and the baker's execution, and these predictions came true. Verse from Quran, Surah Yusuf 12:41-42, highlighting Joseph's interpretation of the prisoner's dreams. Joseph, in his interpretation for the cupbearer, made a humble request to remember him to Pharaoh so that he might be released. However, the cupbearer, in his newfound freedom, forgot Joseph. This forgetfulness added another layer of trial to Joseph's life, testing his patience and his continued faith. Yet, even in this disappointment, Joseph did not lose hope, trusting that God had a plan for him. His time in prison, while seemingly a setback, ultimately served as a crucial stepping stone towards his future prominence, showcasing his unique talent and unwavering faith, even in the darkest of circumstances. 6. Rise to power in Egypt, detailing his wisdom and leadership during a time of crisis. Years passed in the prison until Pharaoh himself had a series of disturbing dreams that none of his wise men could interpret. It was then that the former chief cupbearer finally remembered Joseph and his remarkable ability. Pharaoh, intrigued, summoned Joseph from the dungeon. Joseph, with humility and reliance on God, interpreted Pharaoh's dreams as foretelling 7 years of great abundance in Egypt, followed by 7 years of severe famine. Recognizing the impending crisis, Joseph didn't just interpret the dream. He also offered a wise and practical plan to prepare for the famine by storing surplus grain during the years of plenty. Impressed by Joseph's wisdom and foresight, Pharaoh recognized his exceptional abilities and appointed him as vizier, the second most powerful man in Egypt. Joseph, once a slave and a prisoner, was now entrusted with the immense responsibility of managing the nation's resources and ensuring its survival during the predicted famine. His leadership during this critical time was marked by fairness, efficiency, and a deep sense of responsibility. He implemented his plan effectively, ensuring that Egypt had enough food to sustain its population and even to supply neighboring lands. This dramatic rise to power underscores the idea that even the most challenging circumstances can pave the way for unexpected opportunities when coupled with faith, wisdom, and integrity. 7. The reunion with his brothers, examining themes of forgiveness and reconciliation. The famine eventually spread to Canaan, where Joseph's family resided. Jacob, hearing that there was grain in Egypt, sent his sons, except for Benjamin, to purchase supplies. Little did they know they would be standing before the brother they had once betrayed. Joseph, now a powerful Egyptian official, recognized his brothers immediately, though they did not recognize him. He tested them, wanting to see if they had changed, and if they still harbored the same cruelty they had shown him years ago. Through a series of carefully orchestrated events involving their brother Benjamin, Joseph brought his family back together. The eventual revelation of Joseph's identity to his brothers was a moment of profound emotion. Fear and guilt overwhelmed them as they realized the magnitude of their past actions. However, Joseph, displaying remarkable grace and forgiveness, reassured them, emphasizing that God had turned their evil intentions into good. Verse from Quran, Surah Yusuf 12:101, where Joseph acknowledges God's grace. This reunion is a powerful testament to the transformative power of forgiveness and reconciliation. Joseph's ability to look beyond the pain of his past and extend compassion to those who had wronged him is a central theme of his story. It highlights the potential for healing and the restoration of broken relationships, even after significant betrayal. 8. Joseph's character and faith, identifying key virtues that guided him. Throughout his tumultuous journey, Joseph consistently demonstrated several key virtues that guided his actions and ultimately led to his success. Foremost among these was his unwavering faith in God. Even in the darkest of times, whether in slavery or prison, Joseph maintained a belief that there was a purpose to his trials and that God would ultimately bring about good. Another defining characteristic was his integrity. He steadfastly refused the advances of Potiphar's wife, prioritizing his moral and religious principles over personal gain or comfort. His resilience in the face of betrayal, hardship, and prolonged injustice is also remarkable. He didn't allow bitterness to consume him, but instead focused on making the best of each situation he found himself in. Furthermore, Joseph displayed wisdom and discernment, particularly evident in his ability to interpret dreams and his strategic planning during the famine. He also showed humility, consistently acknowledging God as the source of his abilities. Finally, his capacity for forgiveness towards his brothers after years of suffering at their hands is a powerful example of emotional and spiritual maturity. These virtues, consistently demonstrated throughout his life, serve as an inspiring model for us all. 9. Joseph in Judaism and Christianity, a brief look at his portrayal in these faiths. As we touched on earlier, Joseph is a significant figure in both Judaism and Christianity, though his story is most extensively detailed in the Quran. In the Torah, Genesis chapters 37 to 50, the narrative closely aligns with the Quranic account, highlighting his favored status, the brothers' jealousy, his sale into slavery, his time in Potiphar's house and prison, his dream interpretations, his rise to power, and the eventual reunion with his family in Egypt. For Judaism, Joseph is a key figure in their ancestral history, one of the 12 sons of Jacob who became the progenitors of the tribes of Israel. His story is read annually as part of the weekly Torah portions. In Christianity, Joseph is primarily known through the Old Testament narrative in Genesis. He is seen as a righteous man whose trials foreshadow certain aspects of Jesus Christ's life, such as betrayal, suffering, and eventual exaltation. While the New Testament doesn't recount Joseph's story in detail, his lineage as an ancestor of Jesus, Matthew 1:16, gives him an important place within the Christian narrative of salvation history. He serves as an example of faith, integrity, and God's providential care. While the specific emphasis and theological interpretations may differ slightly between these faiths, the core narrative of Joseph's life and his significance as a righteous and influential figure are shared. 10. Lessons for our lives, drawing practical wisdom from Joseph's enduring story. Finally, let's consider the timeless lessons we can draw from the story of Joseph and apply to our own lives. Firstly, it reminds us of the destructive power of jealousy and the importance of fostering healthy relationships within our families and communities. Secondly, Joseph's resilience teaches us that even in the face of betrayal and hardship, we can find inner strength and persevere. His unwavering integrity, even when facing temptation and false accusation, underscores the importance of staying true to our values, regardless of the consequences. Joseph's ability to use his gifts, in his case, dream interpretation and administrative skills, to serve others and navigate challenging times, highlights the value of recognizing and utilizing our own talents. Perhaps one of the most profound lessons is the power of forgiveness. Joseph's eventual reconciliation with his brothers demonstrates the potential for healing and the liberation that comes from letting go of bitterness. Ultimately, Joseph's story is a testament to the importance of faith and trusting in a larger plan, even when the path ahead seems unclear and filled with obstacles. By reflecting on his journey, we can gain valuable insights into navigating our own challenges with greater wisdom, resilience, and hope. And so, we come to the end of our exploration into the inspiring story of Prophet Joseph. From the depths of a well to the pinnacle of power, his journey is a testament to faith, resilience, and the wisdom of trusting in a greater plan. I truly hope you found these 10 lessons insightful and perhaps even applicable to your own life's journey. What resonated with you the most? Please do take a moment to share your thoughts and reflections in the comment section below. I always appreciate hearing your perspectives. If you enjoyed this exploration and would like to see more content like this, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. It helps others discover these stories. And if you haven't already, subscribing to the channel ensures you don't miss future insights. Feel free to share this video with anyone you think might find it meaningful. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. May your own journey be filled with strength and faith. Until our next exploration, take care.